This is Right to Dream 2. Right to Dream 2 is a direct action of Right to Survive, where we put this here to enlighten the public and the city officials that it's not enough affordable housing, it's not enough shelter space, and people, humans, are sleeping on the sidewalk and doorways and being criminal. Right to Survive put Right to Dream 2 here so people can get off the street and sleep at least 8 to 12 hours safely, warm and dry. The experience since we've been here with the city has been not good. They wanted to find us and call us a recreational campsite, but this is not a campsite and it's not needed for recreation. It's for a place for survival, and it's a rest area where people just could come sleep. Now with the neighbors, some liked us, some didn't want us, some didn't know what we was about. But over time, the whole neighborhood association got to like us because we did things that normally they wouldn't do, where we patrolled this area, we kept it clean, we stopped all the graffiti, we stopped all the drug dealing, and we getting people out in front of their doorway so they wouldn't have to clean up every time they came and open up their businesses. So they took a liking to us, but it's that NIMBY mentality where it's not in my backyard. So now that the city is starting to recognize that we're doing good, they want to establish more of these rest areas in the city where it can perhaps get people off the sidewalk. They was finding us because they called us a recreational campsite, and they wanted us to get a permit for being a recreational campsite. And we said, that's not what we are, so we didn't pay the fine. And they accumulated. First they was doubling the fine at $600 a month, then they doubled to $1,200. Then it accumulated to $25,000. And so what we did, we got tired of them fining us, so we went and sued the city. The fines are resolved if we agree to leave this site and go into a city-owned site. We had to run our rest area the way we run it, with no city involvement, and keep on doing the thing we're doing now. We're going to be moving as a when, we don't know. Supposedly the proposed site is on the off-ramp on the Broadway Bridge on Lovejoy Northwest in the Pearl District. They very irate. They've been calling the city. They've been threatening. I've been getting irate, upset, threatening phone calls. And so what it is, they only interested in monetary things and not humanity. We had a meeting with them. There's one guy who wanted to know about us, invite us to their meeting. However, the rest of the people didn't want to hear what we're saying. When we got up to leave, they told us to go out the back door. I know that they gathered $10,000 on their rainy day fund and want to sue the city for improper land use thing, but you know the city can do things they want to do.
This is Right to Dream 2. It's a safe place for people who don't have housing to sleep. We have people here who stay overnight or sleep during the day, and then we have people who stay here and they have tents and they take care of security and donations. So I'd like to see other organizations be able to also work with people in their community to create safe places for people to sleep. The official count of people without housing is upwards of 2,000 at the last count, but that's just the official count. There's thousands more people who don't have secure housing, so emergency places like Right to Dream 2 or this model where people can just get their very most basic needs met are necessary.
I'm here because a couple of years ago I got laid off. I'm able to get plenty of rest here as opposed to living out on the street where it's a lot more difficult. There's a lot more weather elements. The police keep making you move. Clean and safe gets you up like 5, 6 o'clock to get up and move. Out there on the streets it's a little harder to be able to get a good night's sleep, to be able to function properly like a lot of people who have homes. There's over 100 people that we serve every day here. I'd like to see me get back up on my feet to be able to be a reflection to other people that it can happen. I'd like to see the move of this place go through so that we can help a lot more people.
This is the proposed site for Right to Dream 2 under the Broadway Bridge right at Lovejoy Northwest in the Pearl District. I would like everybody else, for this to be a site where we can build up community of houseless people being productive for themselves, and maybe we can take over the whole thing and not prove, but show that when we are allowed proper resources and we can do for ourselves, how more productive we can be instead of being dictated to by a bunch of people who got their PhD who think they know what's best for us. We want one in the southeast, southwest, northeast, north, Gresham, Hillsborough, statewide, nationwide. It's an in the meantime solution and not a permanent solution, where until people can find work and housing, this is the place to be, so they won't be on the sidewalks or in the street being criminalized or taken advantage of.
Hello everybody, my name is James, member with R2D2. So we are currently at the location of the new move, awaiting the time that we can move and pick up everything and start anew and start to clean up this neighborhood as we cleaned up the old town Chinatown. We're still gonna do the couples, we're still gonna do the men and the women's and the overflows and all that. We're still gonna have the kitchen, the security desk, the table for miscellaneous activities such as charging cell phones, watching movies, drawing, coloring, card playing, stuff like that. You know, it's all gonna be the same, just in a bigger space.
We're here to take up a particular question about R2D2 and the legal basis on which it can be moved from one place to another.
This hearing today is just one piece of an ongoing discussion about how do we compassionately care for people who live inside and people who live outside.
8 years ago, I had a dream as well. I had the dreams of opening a restaurant, and I came and opened up a restaurant in December of 2008 at the bottom of the recession, right in Old Town. I'm actually thankful the camp is moving. It's nothing against homelessness. Unfortunately, this camp is not going to be warmly embraced by the business community and the residents. My fear is that the businesses will suffer.
Here in our community, we don't believe, nor do we feel it necessary to set up camps for people who cannot afford housing. The idea of camps for people is below our standard of care. The Lovejoy Ramp is 2.5 times larger than the 4th and Birdside Camp. I recommend you slow down your process.
We need some time. We need to pause this conversation. We need, right now, to step back. We don't need to vote today. We need to take some time.
We have a problem with homelessness. There's no question about that. We need a solution. No question about that. I want to make one thing crystal clear. We would never have agreed to invest $50 million in the hotel if the site plan showed a tent camp across the street.
My clients have invested over $70 million in that neighborhood in reliance upon the representation that there would be parking under the bridge. If they were told that there would be tent camps under that bridge, they may very well never have invested one red penny. What I would like to do is to participate with all of the stakeholders that really have an interest here in forming a solution to the plight of our homelessness. You folks have done that. We have a 10-year plan. And this effort takes this plan, puts it on the shelf, and forgets about it.
I am pissed off. Here I am, after all of that volunteer time continuously for 24 years, feeling like I'm not an advocate for the homeless. You all, every one of you, through this process, has created what one of the speakers called class warfare. I'm here to beg you to call a halt to this process. We cannot have class warfare. These ramifications are significant. They are not immaterial, and we should not be spending our time worrying about these people.
The argument is one of class warfare, and I find it offensive. There is not much difference between your having evicted campers from in front of City Hall and under the Morrison Bridge a couple of days ago, and why there should not be an encampment under the Broadway Bridge.
Some would like to paint this as rich against the poor. The whole notion of moving the problem from one neighborhood to another, trading one lawsuit for multiple new lawsuits, is kicking the can down the road.
What I see here today is not just two groups, the rich and the poor divided, but a whole economic stratosphere divided over this issue.
When I bought my condo, if I would have looked at the land use designations in the neighborhood, I would never have any clue that a tented camp would be a permitted use.
I feel like we're taking a temporary step to move Right to Dream. We need real solutions. I feel like this is a temporary thing that could become very permanent. I think we as a city already do a tremendous amount for our vulnerable and our homeless.
Portland has a terrible homeless problem. This problem confronts downtown residents and visitors every time we walk to a grocery store, restaurant, or other local business. There may be no simple solution to this problem, but the solution is certainly not upgrading an illegal homeless camp to a city-mandated homeless camp.
I am opposed to the citing of Right to Dream or any tent community anywhere in our city. I can't reconcile in any way the tented rest areas align with this city's or this region's values and goals. I find it reprehensible that the city council could encourage or would in fact apportion our tax dollars to support tent communities.
We have a homeless problem. There's no question about it. None of my clients are anti-homeless. So if you want to site tents in the city of Portland to accommodate homeless populations, go through a code amendment process. Do it legitimately. Tell us when they're allowed, where they're allowed, under what zones they're allowed, and for how long they're allowed. Other cities have done that. If that's what you want to do, we'll participate and we'll help.
You said in the statement, the use of tents in city property, including sidewalks, remains prohibited under the structures code. That statement is true then, and it is true now. With the approval of this zoning confirmation, unregulated camping will be legalized in all commercial, employment, and industrial zones of the city. If we collectively look into the future, with approval of this confirmation, there will be many more camps throughout the city, and no recourse for the city, any neighborhood or business, any individual to do anything about them.
This is a pilot program, and so where might the next site be?
Portland has a large population of younger street people who travel in packs, hang out on the sidewalks, and live on the streets by choice. And they have various forms of aggressive behavior. What is to prevent them from forming their own organization, doing the same thing?
The camp itself seems to be very well managed. It's the people who won't be allowed in the camp, who will feel attracted to the camp. The sidewalks, everything is going to turn that area into an alcohol impact zone. You know there's 2 grade schools very close to that 3.5 acre Fields Park. Kids pick stuff off the sidewalks. They're going to get hepatitis.
You're establishing a slum under the bridge. You're shoving these people who are destitute and in urgent need for real solution temporarily out of sight.
I firmly believe that if this camp is to go through, you will see a significant loss of business, of revenues.
We're building a new condo and a number of other apartments that are going to put a lot of pressure on this site in the near term, and those 65 parking spots are going to be abused. We're going to risk lower rentals in the Marriott and around the businesses. That's going to have business income tax effects. Property tax valuations will drop. So to say that there's no cost, no impact to revenues, I think is a gross understatement, and we should stop this.
Money, money, money. Everyone wants more money, or they want to build more businesses to make money. There's only some services out there that are only made for certain people. There's not enough services for the older generation. It helps us when we are not able to have money to put a roof over our head. Right to Dream 2 does not discriminate whether you are a certain age, whether you are race, gender, religion. They do not. They welcome all. Yes, they have certain rules. They have rules put in place so that it can be maintained and under control, so it's not out of control.
R2D2 has offered me a place that's not next to a restaurant that's abandoned on the sidewalk. They've offered me a tent and a sleeping bag. And let me tell you what that means to me. That means home. Nobody harms me, wants to harm me, because there's security. Those people are 24 hours a day to watch people like me. Nobody's safe on the streets. Nobody's safe anywhere on the street. What R2D2 is a community of compassion. All I hear today from both sides, and I love to play the devil's advocate, is hearts against wallets and hearts against status. The safety and security does not reside in your pockets, in your pocketbooks. It resides in numbers and in family and in community. And I am without my family now. And the only family I have right now live in tents. And thank God for them.
When we became members at Right to Dream 2, that was the first time I felt safe. I felt like finally there's hope, finally there's a place where we can try to better our lives.
I've been unhoused mostly for 10 years. I was a co-creator of R2D2 and I lived there full-time for 4 months. I'm presently unhoused. My concern is what I call shelterlessness. I took a survey last time. There were 1,453 2 years ago. I was counted in that survey for the first time. I polled people for 2 weeks. The survey missed the shelterless by a factor of 5. We have approximately 7,000 people every night sleeping out in Portland. Talk about fear. Okay, we want to be safe. Right to Dream provides a safe place for people. Okay? Let us be safe just like you all are. Right to Dream is a good neighbor. Okay, I live there. We didn't have thefts. We didn't have all these problems. Okay, it's a good, clean community.
At Right to Dream 2, we've had 71 people find jobs, 76 people find permanent housing. All we really are is people helping people. There really shouldn't even be this label with houseless versus housed. We all have the same hopes and dreams. The people that are housed, just like the people that are houseless, hope that they will be able to have that stability.
Since we have moved in there, the crime rate has gone from an extreme high to almost non-existence on the corner of 4th and Burnside, as the records show. They say we can't look for work, we can't look for houses, we can't maintain ourselves. Well, our statistics show they're wrong. We have people that have maintained housing since they've been with us. They've gotten jobs.
Give them someplace safe and secure. If you are going to put those laws and police on them, at least give them a chance to have someplace stable so that they can get themselves out of homelessness.
They've provided women, men, couples to come in, warm, safe shelter. They provide food if they have it. They usually do. With a warm sleeping bag, a warm place to come, get off the streets, where they're not in the doorways where the police are rousing them up every morning. We've made a lot of accomplishments. We've got people off the streets in this safe housing. I've come a long way since I've been in R2D2. I love my members at R2D2. I even love my husband. I adore R2D2.
We were homeless for 6 months. I was 4 months pregnant when we got our housing. We got our housing and we got a job. During that time, it was hell being on the streets being pregnant. The members gave us food. They were willing to help. Even now, we take our son down there to see the Right to Dream 2 people. We visit nearly every week. I trust my son with them. That tells you they're safe. It works. They help everybody. They love my son as if he's their own. He's got so many aunts and uncles there that I don't even think he knows who's who anymore. And it's a great community.
We are a community service. It's plain to see, and that's exactly the right classification for what Right to Dream 2 does.
Right to Dream 2 should be in this neighborhood. They're just like us, but without homes. There is no reason to fight them about this. Why are you fighting them? Right to Dream is a good cause. It's a good thing, not a bad thing.
I work with a group of people that do amazing work every day. And we don't ask anything from anybody. It's a lot of inequity in our class system, but there is some equality in the laws that govern us. I'm a human being and I deserve to be able to sleep. I don't deserve to have rich white people tell me where to sleep.
All of us are good people. You know, we got people that wash windows, we got people that work part-time at Saturday market. I ride a pedicab. In every single religion, you're supposed to help the homeless, you're supposed to help the people that ain't got nothing. Jesus did it. I don't understand what's so hard about that concept. We all understand.
People spoke on their fears, people spoke on their concerns, people spoke on their ignorance, and people spoke on what they know. And unless we come together and talk and reason with one another, it's going to be that way. The people in the Pearl District are weighing
monetary over humanity, because they're always speaking about, we gonna bring their property value down. And maybe that's good, then there'll be more affordable housing. However, we're not there to bring property value down, we're there to get people from sleeping on your sidewalk, we're there to stop people from sleeping in doorways, we're there to stop the drug dealing, we're there to stop the drug use to buy our presence. And that happens everywhere we go and everywhere we will go.
The people in R2D2 have created a community. They've been here for 2 years. All of the fears that you heard today are irrelevant with this group. They are the most conservative, easy group to get along with on this earth. Their rules are so strict, I don't know if I could live there.
I spent 5 nights on site at Right to Dream in its early days. I can see the values lived out. I can see the empowerment.
To the community of people that stay there every night, they qualify on that grounds as a community center. They are serving a community as a community center. People are going to sleep on the streets tonight. And it's going to get cold. It's going to get rainier and colder, and people will be out all winter long.
This is a better solution than the alternative, which is sleeping on doorways and in the streets. Shelter for the homeless. That's a long-term solution. It's expensive. It's going to take time. And it just is not in the cards in the current economic and political climate.
R2D2, your current site, a privately owned Burnside property, has been extremely successful. Great traffic flow, great visibility. The homeless have absolutely benefited from your efforts. Do not move. Stand strong at your Burnside location. If in fact the City of Portland has stated an interest in buying the Burnside micro rights property, and or declaring the site an illegal campground based upon the zoning, that creates a real game changer. If in fact the sale goes through to the city, you at that time may be entitled to just compensation on your total relocation costs. In Seattle, City Hall had relocated a camp called Nicholasville, funded $500,000 for the relocation cost. If you decide to move now to the dark and gloomy, out of sight, out of mind site under the Broadway Bridge currently being offered by Commissioner Fritz, my instinct tells me bad choice. R2D2, stay where you're at. When you control the Burnside lot, you control the game. One other thing to be said, developer Homer Williams, you are the solution for creating long-term permanent housing for the homeless. You are the solution for getting teams of developers in this city together and have the creative ability to get the job done and get these people into long-term permanent housing with social services provided. You are the solution. You can get the job done. Please do it.
If we simply pass the same measures they have in Seattle and Eugene, where the small nonprofits like them and me and all the rest of the nonprofits that are around here can take in a few people in different places, but all we get is this NIMBY. That was pure NIMBY right there, not in my backyard, please. I know what it's like to sleep rough, and it ain't no fun when you have people constantly waking you up, constantly harassing you.
Homeless people do not have a voice if they're in shelters or if they're on the streets. Where is their voice? R2D2 has organized people so they can have a voice. People have organized themselves to be clean and safe, and they are having a voice. They're up here speaking before you. This is a real golden moment. People who live in houses do not understand the struggles of people who do not have a house. It's plain and simple, it's not understood. And instead of trying to understand and find a place of dialogue, people are treated as wards, dependents, people who are just too messed up to have a voice. Once you have conversation, you have the same vocabulary, you have a bridge of communication and understanding, solutions are found. Get creative. You have to get out of just making money. It's what's called social responsibility. That's another new tag in business world.
I've heard a lot of people talk about how we deserve better than tenants. I agree. I also know before all these cowards got up and left because they got their shots in, a lot of these people that are in this room actually owned a lot of those empty buildings. And none of them actually said, you know, I'd rather you live in one of my empty buildings than live in my backyard. They all agreed that those would have been better, but they didn't want us to live in one of their buildings either. even though they're not making any money off of those buildings because they're empty. If someone said, I don't want black people moving into my neighborhood because it'll bring down the property values, you wouldn't be sympathizing with them at all. But when you say, I don't want homeless people in my area, well, everyone's like, well, I don't want homeless people in my area either. Until you are homeless yourself. All homeless people don't have access to a shower or a place to keep their clothes. If you're homeless, you're going to stink. You're not going to be pretty if you're homeless. And guess what? If you sleep in sub-zero weather and the rain, eventually you'll figure out that if you sleep drunk, you're likely to go to sleep at all. If you don't, you'll probably spend weeks without any sleep. All these stereotypes you make up about the homeless, there's a reason to like that. And it can happen to anyone who loses their damn job.
CWA members in Portland have suffered massive job losses in the last 12 years. First, due to the dot-com bust in 2001, then due to offshoring of call center work, and finally due to the housing bust of 2008. Those jobs lost had middle-class wages and benefits, and have not been replaced with equivalent jobs since. Many of my laid-off members have lost their homes. Some of them are houseless, living on friends' couches or in their cars, seeking work or working jobs without sufficient pay to afford housing. With the increasing gap between the rich and the rest of us, we are all 1 or 2 paychecks away from houselessness. Breaking up families happens when there isn't enough emergency or low-income housing, and when they are separated according to gender. Because of this, CWA is totally in support of Right to Dream 2.
Homelessness is not going away. The stance of not in my backyard is both unproductive and unrealistic. Dignity Village and R2D2 have set a model of efficiency and care for community that can be sustainable and upheld. The homeless citizens of Portland are already camping under the bridges.
These hearings today are about the homeless. Let's not forget that. Remember, these are citizens of Portland. Homeless or not, they live in Portland and are citizens. They have the right to dream. What's at stake here is the people who need a place to sleep. They are not pawns in a city war between the rich and city planners. The problem will just not go away. And out of sight and out of mind ideas are not the answer. I am homeless, and this place will provide me a safe place to sleep and a right to dream.
Right to Dream 2 is an organization that organically, almost it feels like magically, Portland has been blessed with. They are building community, they are helping each other, and they are providing an amazing example for all of the rest of us as well.
Right, Dream 2 is somewhere where the people that fall through the cracks can go and they can be safe. They don't have to sleep in a doorway. They don't have to be kicked away by the police and or angry citizens on the street that are mad because there are homeless people sleeping on their sidewalks. It's not the solution. I understand that. But until there is a solution, please let us have somewhere to go.
Right to Dream right now, when people come, they're wandering around lost, they're sleep deprived, they don't understand what the police are saying. Homelessness can only be solved with the leadership of people who've experienced it.
Whatever it is the Right to Dream 2 does, it seems to be working. You put somebody that's out on the streets for a good amount of time into a nice apartment, the first couple of weeks they're okay with it. And all of a sudden, the culture shock starts to hit.
What I saw was 71 individuals who were able to find jobs, 76 individuals who were able to move on into permanent housing. There were 10 people who were able to get their kids back from the child system. There were 6 people who were able to go to school, 5 people who were able to kick themselves off of substance abuse. By doing this, they only used about $15,000 worth of an operating budget every year. For them, it's always been wanting to be a welcoming presence in the community, wanting to foster community, and to build that and to be a good neighbor. We can look at Right to Dream 2 and see that they have an opportunity to be recognized as being a partner within our safety net. Now that Right to Dream 2 has stepped in to fill that void, we are seeing progress.
What Right to Dream 2 has caused is saving lives. I've heard a lot about money. Right to Dream 2 doesn't cost us any money. What it does is it saves us money. It's saved us millions of dollars of folks that have ended up in the hospital or ended up in prison or state institution. You can see that they deal with a lot of mental health issues. On a human scale, they've done more than any of the other services that we hire. The only thing that I'm kind of pissed off about right here too is that there's not more. You've pretty much ignited a fire that's gonna have to be put out. So for that, I commend you.
I've been homeless on the streets of Portland for 2 years now. Me and my significant other, we're walking around the city with a $2,000 income every month. And we don't do drugs or alcohol or drink. The city had to send someone to come with us to see why couldn't we find housing. And the reason why, there was no housing for us. We had to pay 2 deposits of $840 each. And next month we're at $840, which we could afford. And now we'll have a home in November 1st. And we paid for that. When you was walking up over me, was you concerned? I've been here for 2 years. I have not heard anybody concerned about me before. If we don't fix these problems now, it's going to be left on to the generation to come. I am that generation, and I'm pissed off. When you want to blame other people, blame yourselves because you sat there and thought of nothing but what I'm hearing all today from the people who's totally against R2D2 and everything. It's about me, 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 me. Because if it's not, I would have seen your faces at least at one protest. You sit here, want to fight against poor people or your local government. So honestly, you should be a goddamn shame of yourself.
A lot of people are speaking of the safety of the homeless. I currently reside underneath the Morrison Bridge. Monday, 6 of us were maced. They speak of safety. There is nowhere safe for us homeless. We've been chased from your front sidewalk to the next park. So now we're under a bridge. Now you want to move us from under a bridge to under another bridge. I don't care where you move me to, as long as I can put up a structure to get out of the rain. That's all that matters to me. I'm tired of being homeless. To me, a tent is a home. It's somewhere I can be dry.
Stop saying you're thugs, after especially like the Morrison Bridge, which is all over the internet, all over the media. We're nonviolent. We're only violence that gets aroused is by the cop interactions when they become violent towards us. We support R2D2 because at least they don't assault our service animals and citizens.
The Portland camping ban has been deemed unconstitutional by both the Oregon and federal constitution, Article 1, Chapter 16, and Amendment 8, respectively. So everyone talking about the camping law is really malinformed. I've witnessed some of the police brutality, pepper spraying people in the face, shining strobe lights in epileptic girls' faces right outside your building here. Money-based values over human-based values. Everything I hear is about money. We're going to lose profits because of people looking ugly in the street. And from what I understand, you guys have plenty of money to dump into projects like the Hyatt Lodge. The R2D2 camp is a place for people to be safe and get away from being on the sidewalk and being kicked in the face and sprayed by police officers.
I've had meetings here in this building to discuss the houseless community, to discuss the City Hall vigil, and what was returned was absolutely nothing. I slept in front of this building last year, and I'm not ever gonna forget that. I'm not gonna forget the police brutality and harassment, and I'm not gonna forget the harassment from the people alone in this building. Nobody cared to listen to the people that have spent over 100 days in front of this building. This is class war. Screw your parking lot and screw your investments. I do not care about no parking lot, and I don't care if anybody decides whether or not that they want to put $50 million into a new hotel. That disturbs me and boils my blood. The fact that you don't want to lose a parking lot when people are losing their lives every single day. 37,000 homeless people that die per year in the United States. There is not even enough homeless people in the United States to fill the empty homes or the empty buildings. We don't need no new building. We need to put the buildings, including the government buildings we already have that are empty, to use. And we need to put the people in those buildings. Some of you may be familiar with the challenge some members of Congress and CEOs have taken on, trying to live off of food stamps. Some less than $5 a day. I want the people here who oppose R2D2 to try living on the street for at least a week. And I hope that they can escape the possible rape, the possible assault, the possible robbing, the possibilities of being jumped or even beat or even harassed by police officers in this city. These are the dangers that living on the street are real. These are real dangers that living on the street brings. I want them to see if they can escape that and live through that. Some of the success that has been brought up for R2D2. It not only has housed people and helped people get jobs, it lets people sleep in numbers. It's drug-free, it's weapon-free. They have more comprehensive strategy for preventing sexual assault within the community than any church I've ever been in. People want to talk about how women may be scared to go around there. I would feel safer sleeping there than anywhere else.
As a state and country that represents quote-unquote freedom, in my opinion, the meaning has been perverted and we have forgotten what matters, like love, sharing, and equality. I've observed like every day inequality, even with forces that are supposed to mediate and serve and protect, abuse their positions in what seems to be, in my perception, to hold down property.
When you say money is worth it, more so than those people dying, that is class warfare.
I have sat here for the last few hours hearing the most privileged members of Portland talk about property values, people who have no property. Right to Dream 2 is a group of houseless people who have self-organized to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, which I thought was what poor people were supposed to do according to your ideology. They'd be much better in the multiple empty houses that they could easily live in if this capitalist system hadn't screwed them out of it. This is a temporary solution, as is any solution within the capitalist system. I don't have any faith that any long-term solution can be reached through this process. But this I do believe. One day, a day of reckoning will come when the last shall be first and the first shall be last. And you're damn right that's class warfare, because class is warfare.
We have lost our focus. We have lost our meaning as a human culture, as a race of beings. Somewhere along the line, money has become more important than life. And this is a travesty, because life is what connects everybody. You are living beings. I know you know that. And you know that you wouldn't want to be out on the street like these people. You wouldn't want your loved ones or your family members or your friends to do the same either. These people are looking for someone to care for them, someone to help them. And that's what should be important. But the conversation continues to come up about money. And money is not what should matter. Life is the only reason why we should be running society. And we should actually make a conscious decision to make that the goal. Not owning things, not making money. Ownership, nobody actually owns anything. It's an ideological, it's a wholly manufactured ideological construct that we're imposing on each other. For what purpose? It's not helping anybody. It's actually hurting people. We're not developing in a balanced manner. And that's why we need to start thinking in terms of life and people. How do we help them? How do we optimize life for everybody? For not just human beings, but all the life on the planet. The planet itself is a living being. It's an organism with its own consciousness. And she's not really happy with us as a race of beings, I can tell you that right now. We're all cells living here on this planet. We're cells, we're part of her body. And right now we are acting like a cancer when we are continuing to disregard life. These people, they're not things, they're living beings. They're not garbage. You can't treat them like this. I don't believe that there should be a camp over there on Burnside and 4th. I believe that every single person living in that camp should have a home because there are vacant homes.
People are studying tents and rain and cold.
if I agree with that, if the people in the Pearl District come stay in the tent with us and see how fast the decision would be made when they suffer the cold and the rain.
It has been a long, strange trip. A lot of people in our community, including some who maybe came to this hearing to oppose this particular location decision, might have come to understand a little bit more about how valid Right to Dream 2 is. The people in Right to Dream 2 who have talked about self-help are really about that, and who have talked about being good neighbors and making sure that the streets around their community are safe. Let's assume that that good faith is true, and in fact, the numbers that I have from my police bureau confirm that this community is the least of our worries. The safety situation in our city with respect to what happens on the street is not harmed, but actually helped by having a self-help community like this, providing a place of safety.
People who live outside are people, and that they are the most qualified to help find the solution. I don't know that Right to Dream 2 wants any more government-run buildings. I believe that Right to Dream 2 has provided this amazing model for people who are outside for many different reasons.
Money buys everything. The big money in the Pearl District is coming out trying to see how they can sway us from coming in there, ruin their property value. If they think they got enough money to change our mind or to sway us, good luck. I'm not saying we can't be bought, but how much you want to buy us for? If all the shelters is full, and warming shelters, the overnight shelters full, you should have a right to find a plot of land or a sidewalk and put your tent on. I think you should be able to do that. Why not? Why not? We're human. We have to exercise our human rights, and one of my basic human rights is sleep. Come on, people. Let's get real. That's reality. Love.